husband. Like he's talking, blah, blah, blah. He knows I'm going to stop and stick my face in that rose. Keep talking if he wants, but I'm going to stick my face in that rose. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to encourage him to do it. He may or may not, and I feel like a little uplift. And what's great about this whole idea of the glimmer, because as you were talking, I'm like, I have to just kind of see what's out there on the internet about the glimmer, is that it's not just kind of like cutesy wording. Like there really is a specific like psychological, it was been coined by a behavioral neuroscientist about what it does to your what a glimmer does to your nervous system, how it triggers your autonomic nervous system into activating your vagus nerve to calm you down as opposed to trigger you, like the opposite of triggering, like you said.
On today's podcast, we talk about glimmers. What are they and why do you need to add them to your self-care toolkit? Then I talk about how I overcame being an overpacker to someone who loves to pack light. All of this on the 96th episode. Oh my gosh, I'm so close to 100. What am I going to do for 100? I don't know. You're going to have to tune in and find out. All of this on the 96th episode of the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, starting now. Hi, welcome. I'm Allegra of Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, and I have my friend Natascha here with me.
Hi.
And I am on a mission to help you prioritize yourself and your goals by learning to harness the power of planning, which is why this live video cast goes up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, wherever you listen. And welcome. Feel free to chat with us. I will see those before or even if you're watching the recording, I will see the messages that you put there. So go ahead and put some messages in there and we will respond as appropriate. And I like to start every video with pulling a card from this deck. And so let's see what surprise we have today. The most rewarding things you do in life are often the ones that look like they cannot be done. The most rewarding things you do in life are often the ones that look like they cannot be done. I don't know. I have some issues with that quote. Oh, by the way, the quote is Arnold Palmer.
All right.
Spoken like someone singularly focused on achievement.
I mean, I think people said, dude, you cannot mix iced tea and lemonade. You just can't do it.
It cannot be done.
It cannot be done. It will rip, and then he did it, and he created a beverage sensation that's just, so refreshing.
I like that take on it. I feel like the other take on it though is that it's a very achievement oriented quote.
Sure.
Which, because in my opinion, the most rewarding things in life are often just the things that we overlook, the little things.
Yeah.
Which I think I talked about last week or the week before. So I like your take on it, but I would also say like, hey, Arnold, maybe stop and smell the roses a little bit.
And I get what he's saying. Like if something's like, you think you can't do it and then you do it, it's like, yay, of course that feels very good. But yeah, I agree with you. It really is the little things, right? It sounds so cliche, but it really is the little things that feel so rewarding.
I mean, I agree. I get what he's saying. I was at a conference last week and I was talking about the importance of self-care by telling my own burnout stories, which, one of my burnout stories involves me being told by a doctor that I'm never going to move the way I'd moved before. Like I would never be able to ski or play sports or, maybe even walk quickly because I was in this like hunched over position. I'd herniated my L5 S1 and no amount of physical therapy was seeming to unherniate, I don't know what the word is for the opposite.
Sure.
Yeah, unherniate that disc. And yes, absolutely. Incredibly rewarding to overcome that. Incredibly satisfying and character building for me. I still talk about it to this day and it's been not quite 2 decades, but we're getting close to it. Amazing. So yes, I get that.
Sure.
But smell the roses, Arnold.
Most rewarding. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. If he had said the most character building, absolutely, I would have agreed with him there. But the most rewarding, I don't know. So for those of you just joining us, I like to read a quote from this little box, and I'm having a little problem with agreeing with it wholeheartedly, which is what's fun about this box, honestly, because sometimes I agree and sometimes, I don't.
Yeah.
And actually, it's interesting for those of you who might not know, I recently started hosting another podcast. It's called Beyond the Sups, and you can find that everywhere. I started hosting that in December, and I host it for a supplement manufacturer. And at the end of the podcast, I always ask 3 questions. If you were a supplement, what would you be? If you were on a deserted island but had a lifetime supply, what 1 supplement would you take with you? And is there some fantasy supplement that doesn't exist that you'd want to exist? And it's always fascinating listening to people's thought process about why they would be a specific like Natascha, if you were a supplement.
I mean, my brain was going like, I don't know enough about supplements to know. But what great questions. Those are great, really wonderfully open-ended questions for especially what supplement would you be?
Well, and the philosophy, the thinking, like one person said, lion's mane. I would be lion's mane. And I said, why would you be lion's mane? And he said, because mushrooms are a little mysterious and a little bit misunderstood, but they also adapt to exactly what you need. And I was like, wow, that was really philosophical.
Ooh, I love it. Do you have a supplement you could say you were?
I would say vitamin D because it's the sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
And it also affects mood. It affects immune system. It affects so many things. So I like to think that I, help people with those things. And hi, Carolyn, and hi, Sandwich. Happy birthday, Sandwich.
Happy birthday, Sandwich.
I do see the comment, so feel free to comment. And yeah, so I would be vitamin D.
Okay, I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So if you're into health and nutrition and supplements, check out Beyond the Sups wherever you get your podcast.
And put in your comments, what supplement would you be?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the why, because the why is what's really intriguing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You don't just say like, vitamin D, why?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's much greater to have an answer, much better.
So if you're joining us for the first time, you can think about it. Maybe next time you come on, you'll have an answer to the supplement question. If you're joining us for the first time, Natascha and I have actually co-written these 4 books. They're workbooks. They're really easy to go through. And these are all designed to help you prioritize yourself and your goals by harnessing the power of planning in very, in slightly different ways. They're all super short though, so you can get through them quickly. And as usual on the podcast today, we're going to talk about 2 things. In the first part of the podcast, we're going to talk about knowing your glimmers as a way to take care of yourself, as a form of self-care. And I'll get more into what are glimmers in just a moment. And then the second part of our podcast, we're going to talk about packing light. And let me tell you, I have been a chronic overpacker my entire life because I like to be prepared.
Sure.
I'm like, but I might need this and I might need that.
Yeah.
However, 2 years ago, I was forced to pack light, and I'll talk about that in part 2 of the podcast. And I do have a plan. I have a 4-page free printable for you to grab, and we'll talk about that in the second part of the podcast. So, yay! First part of the podcast.
Love it.
Glimmers.
Glimmers. Yeah. So I love, talk to me. What is a glimmer? I mean, aside from the little glint in one's eye or a glimmer on I don't fish, but like I imagine the little lures that they put out there. There's a little glimmer to attract.
Oh, yes.
What's a glimmer?
So a glimmer is a term for in the positive psychology world for like the opposite of a trigger. So if a trigger is something that sets you off in a negative way, then a glimmer is a small act that brings you joy or peace. Like, for instance, I just got back from walking my dog and the citrus blossoms are starting to bloom. And I love the scent of citrus blossoms. And every time I saw a citrus tree blossoming that I could smell without, trespassing on private property, I did so. And every time I did, I was just like, oh, I just love that. It just made me happy.
Yeah. Right. Scents are so amazing. They can transport you. I think there's been research that like out of all the senses, it's able to really evoke or, bring you to a time and place and bring you to like specific feelings and memories more so than any other sense, apparently.
It's true. It's true. Our vision is our
is
strongest sense. It's our dominant sense as a species, but scent has this visceral memory component to it that just is transporting. And so I don't know why citrus blossom, but I love citrus blossom.
Well, I
And
feel
so it makes me happy.
Yeah. There is a reason that, there's that adage of stop and smell the roses. It's not a joke. It's not, yes, we talked just a moment ago, look at the little stuff.
Yeah.
But really, and so it seems kind of cliche, but I really do stop and smell the roses. If I pass a rose bush and it is, like you said, I'm not trespassing, I stick my nose right up in that blossom, because for those few seconds that I'm inhaling, it really does kind of give me this little instant vacation from whatever's going on. And there's research again about the vibration frequency of roses and
interesting.
Rose oil and so forth, that it really does help. If you're into that kind of thing, raise your vibration is what I've read.
So oh my gosh,
I'm gonna have to look that up. Research. I don't know how accurate that is, but I can tell you from my own experience, I can be in a crappy mood and I can stick my face in a rose, and even if it's just for those few seconds, it does really feel like an uplift. It feels like a glimmer. I'm so glad you used that orange blossom as an example of what a glimmer could be. Because smelling roses for me is 100% that.
Yeah, it's so itty bitty. And if you've listened to me speak before about meditation is something I struggle with. Now, I am good at being mindful in tasks, so I can wash the dishes mindfully. I can do that mindfully. But smelling a flower for me is probably the best form of meditation, because I don't know about you, but I always close my eyes.
Yeah.
Right? So I close my eyes.
Yeah.
And I am never more in that exact second than when I'm smelling a flower. It's just like all my focus. I just want to concentrate fully on everything that orange blossom has to offer me. And so,
100%. That is how I feel about, and that's how I do the same thing with, it does really feel like I said, it's a vacation. It feels like it puts a bubble around me for like a split second, where like, no matter what I've just been worrying about, or, whatever it is that's been going on, even when I walk with my husband, like he's talking, blah, 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 he knows I'm going to stop and stick my face in that rose. Talking if he wants, but I'm going to stick my face in that rose. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to encourage him to do it. He may or may not, and I feel like a little uplift. And what's great about this whole idea of the glimmer, because as you were talking, I'm like, I have to just kind of see what's out there on the internet about the glimmer, is that it's not just kind of like cutesy wording. Like there really is a specific, like psychological, it was been coined by a behavioral neuroscientist about what it does to your what a glimmer does to your nervous system, how it triggers your autonomic nervous system into activating your vagus nerve to calm you down as opposed to trigger you, like the opposite of triggering, like you said.
Absolutely. So if you are able to grab a piece of paper and something to write with, write down 5 things that are itty bitty that bring you joy. I mean, this is such a great self-care tool to have in your quiver. I don't want to use I hate using like terms related to like bullets and stuff like that, So I'm going to go to archery because my daughter does archery. So let's put this tool in your quiver of tools.
Love it.
And let's think about what are 5 things that you can do that are easy and fast that just uplift you. Like for me, one of mine, and if you saw me, I posted it on Instagram yesterday in anticipation of doing this podcast. Doing 3 cartwheels in a row always lifts my spirits. I don't know if it's the movement itself, there's a lot of research behind the benefits of inverting, right? So I'm inverting, I'm raising my heart rate, but I also think that there's something that it just reminds me of being a kid on the playground.
Yes.
So I'm sure that there's something in there where it's just like, I'm 8, Who knows? And it was a little
for me, or if I see a swing and I can get on a swing, man, I love swings. I just really love. I just get pumping up there and get going on that. But I don't always have a swing available.
Right. But that's not a bad one. I mean, some of them are hard. Like for me, another one is napping in a hammock. I don't always have a hammock available, but it's one of the 5 for sure because I can get to a hammock relatively easily. So I would definitely add swing there. I mean, it's easy to go to a park and jump on a swing if you need to. Yeah,
and you need to for sure. Yeah.
If you need a swing, you can find one.
Listen, you can find a swing. Okay.
Yeah.
You can get yourself a swing if you need to.
And
What's funny? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to finish this one thought because I videotaped myself doing the cartwheels, which I've never done before. And I was like, oh man, I need to work on my flexibility there because, like I am not getting as straight as I thought I was getting. So it definitely made me aware of something I need to work on, but it just feels good and it's fun and easy to do.
It's amazing how how we think we're looking when we do things like that, especially at this age.
Yes.
Somebody Allegra and I have played soccer, never together though.
Oh God. Oh no, I would so not want to see that.
I know, seriously. And I just was like, I'm like, is that how I run? Like in my mind, I thought I was firing off. I was like, to get going, like, like once I get up to speed, it's fine, but I don't fire off like off the line, like a Lamborghini, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
right.
Like so I was just, yes. So I feel you, girl. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm just, top speed, No. It's so funny. So when you started describing what a glimmer was, excuse me, the first thing that came to mind was, I've said this for decades now. It doesn't matter what mood I'm in. If I hear the beginning of the Simpsons theme song, it instantly puts me in a good mood. No, but just the first few notes, like the Simpsons.
Okay.
And then into that, because I'm just like, oh, here's 30 minutes of, I know I'm going to enjoy this. I just know I'm going to enjoy. I've always loved the Simpsons. Even when they have a pretty not great episode, it still is delightful to me. And now, obviously you can jump on the streaming service. I can get on Disney Plus and watch any Simpsons episode I want for the last 20 something years. But yeah, there's just something about that. I've always said that. It's like, no matter where I am, if I hear those notes, I'm like, oh, all right. I can take a break here for a few minutes and just watch the Simpsons and enjoy that.
Yeah.
It just instantly lifts my mood.
So I'd love to hear if you have glimmers that you want to share with us. I'd love to hear your glimmers just to give you some more ideas. So mine are, smelling orange blossoms, doing 3 cartwheels, a hot bath, reading, especially if I'm really down, I'll read like my favorite book, which I don't really reread a lot. Yeah. But this book is, it's my glimmer. I'm like, I know that a few pages of this book is going to set me right. And I do that. And I love comedy. I can just pull up I could just go on YouTube and pull up little clips of comedians that I love and watch that. But if I can see a live show, awesome. And here's a little secret. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this because maybe it'll change because I've said it to, all 12 of you listening right now. Open mics are usually free at comedy clubs for people who aren't going up. So for a comedian like me who's working on some material, I have to pay to go up, but you could just sit there and you don't have to order any food or drink either because open mics aren't like that. Oh. So, if you want to get some comedy for free, check out open mics. Most of them are free if you're not going up. There you go.
That is a great little tip. Thank you. So I'm just looking on this list here of other examples. And it's really simple stuff, right? Feeling the warmth of the sun, sensing the cool, salty ocean air, the smell of cut grass, seeing a rainbow, sunlight sparkling on the water, smelling lavender, petting a dog or cat, which is a really very well researched glimmer.
Also walking in grass or sand.
Feeling that
there's something visceral about feeling that under your barefoot.
Barefoot. Yeah. 100%. Yes. There is something so very much about that. Yeah. And that makes me think of seeing fireflies because I get to see them in the summertime when I go back east. We don't have them here in Southern California. And that just instantly, just seeing that little glow coming up out of the grass as dusk is settling in. It's just, there's such a contentment that I feel when I see that. It's,
So there's another trick too about glimmers. So if you sat down and you wrote your 5 glimmers, guess what? Just reading them and thinking about them will actually give you some benefit, some uplifting benefit. Just thinking about the fireflies, just thinking about sitting at the ocean and hearing the crash of the waves and that sort of thing. So like you don't even have to actually do the things. You can just imagine doing them and get some benefit. And so next time you're stressed out and feeling like, I need a vacation, but you can't because you're sitting at your computer and have 5 more hours on the clock. Think about your glimmers. They're just a great way to secure your mental health in that moment and go on with the day.
The human brain's amazing, right? Right? Just this idea of athletes just imagining the routine they're going to do, the run or whatever, and your muscles fire in those exact ways. So that's really interesting. And of course, it makes total sense that if you really just give a moment to really think about your glimmer, how that has the same effect. Amazing. Yeah.
So that's Glimmers, and that's my little nugget of self-care today.
Love it. Thanks for introducing Glimmers to me.
Yes.
I love it. I'm so glad there's a counterpoint to triggers.
Yeah. Hey, there's always a light side, right? It's just like the Force or duct tape. So I once saw some sticker that was like, duct tape is like the Force. There's a light side and a dark side, and it holds the universe together. Okay, so part 2 of the podcast, we are talking about packing light, and specifically me as an overpacker, packing light. And I did create this 4-page printable. You can go to tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light, or you can scan the QR code right there. And I include pictures too. So I not only talk about sort of the strategy of packing light, I include what I actually packed for a trip 2 years ago. I went to Europe for a month. I visited 3 different countries and maybe a dozen cities. I was hiking. I was having fancy dinners. So I had to pack a range of clothes for 1 month. And because we were traveling so much, I could not waste time losing my luggage. And because there were 3 of us, and because they all charge for luggage, it was going to cost a minimum of $1,200 for us to check our bags on every flight that we were going to take. So, so between the not wanting to lose my luggage and the $1,200, I said, this is the trip that I am going to learn how to pack light. And the trip was in June, and I started planning for it in January. I know this is just how my mind works, people, but hey, that's why I can put together these printables for you, because I do things like this.
I am so glad, because I'm leaving for, it's just a week trip, a full week, but also going to be in a very humid climate. I'm going to be attending a wedding, and it's going to be like, now it's like a tropical beachy kind of wedding, but it's, it's quasi, you got to be kind of dressy, right?
Yeah,
and then you're going to be on a boat and in kayaks and riding horseback. So, excuse me, a range of activities,
Right.
And so I need this, girl, right now. I need to pack light. Plus also I'm bringing, my husband's in the wedding party, so he's going to be bringing his suit and that kind of thing. We have to figure out how we're going to pack light to some degree. And we're also going to be bouncing between different hotels, even though we're just on one island. But
exactly,
I don't want to be dragging a huge suitcase with me, and I need to bring my guitar. So I want to.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so I want to make sure that we really just pack what we're going to use. Because I have a tendency for a trip like this, I'm going to be like, well, I don't know what I'm going to be in the mood to pack to wear on any given day, right? Maybe I know for sure it's going to be humid and hot. So at least I know that part as far as the weather goes. But yeah, there's a range of activities that we'll be doing. So yes, I'm scanning that QR code. I'm going to that URL and grabbing your tips. So lay some on us, girl.
Well, and just to give you also some feedback. So my husband, my daughter, and I traveled. My husband has huge feet, and he had to pack a blazer for our fancy dinners. And he was still able to use the same piece of luggage that I used. So just to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
And he actually said that he packed a couple of things that he didn't wear still.
Wow.
So, by the way, one other idea, I just came back. For those of you who watch the podcast, I was on a girls' trip about 6 weeks ago. And one of my friends, she actually has a habit of packing things that she doesn't necessarily love, so that she actually will donate things wherever, like if she's in a city in the US, she'll just donate things to the Goodwill, like on her second to last day there.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you have room for souvenirs, I guess.
And then you exactly,
Mhm.
and it was so funny. So I was like, "Oh, well, that's an interesting idea," because I did, not on purpose, but I did on this trip. I took something that ended up tearing. So
Mm.
I was able to go shopping because I had to buy something to replace this thing that had torn. So that was kind of fun. I was like, "Oh, maybe in the future I'll purposely take things that are kind of on their last legs, and then I can go shopping while I'm there and, just switch them out."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And then my daughter packed something, and when we were there, she said, "I feel like I've outgrown this, Mom." It was a jumpsuit, and she felt like she was bent over because it was, like,
Yeah.
constricting her,
Yeah.
and it was in perfect condition. It was really nice jumpsuit, and so we went and we bought something that she felt more comfortable in, and I gave it to the shopkeeper. I said, "Hey, do you think you could give this to somebody? We don't have space to pack it back." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we'll find a home for it, no problem." So
Oh, fun.
there are still ways to shop even when you're packing light. But my
Mhm.
first tip to
Yeah, my husband loves to say, because I will overpack. My husband always likes to say, he's like, "There are
right.
stores where we're going. So if you forget something," now where we're actually going, there's not
Right.
gonna be
You're
it's
going kind
kind
of
of remote.
remote.
But for most of the time, if I'm flying to see my
Mhm.
folks or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, what if I forget this?" And da, da, da. He's like, "There are
Yes.
stores there, and you can buy a new toothbrush if you need to." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I do forget that sometimes. I do wanna be prepared.
Well, so my first tip will be to get whatever luggage you need, and on I the piece that I
Mhm.
chose was going to fit in the smallest overhead compartment, in these regional airlines in Europe, because some of the American airlines are bigger than the airlines in Europe, and then regional can be bigger than an international, the overhead compartments. And so I really
Yeah.
wanted something that was gonna fit no matter what airlines I flew. And I can
Yeah.
actually fit this bag even under, at least on domestic flights. I was flying last week, I flew Southwest, and I did carry-on only, and I was able to fit this piece of luggage actually in the seat in front of me. So I was happily surprised by that. I
Right.
was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I could fit that in there." So, I would definitely get something in advance. So I bought that in January. The trip was in June. I bought it in January so I could
Mhm.
play with it and figure out how to make it work for
Yeah.
me. And the other thing is I did choose a backpack, because what I have found is that the airlines don't care at all about weight. They put a weight limit. They say over, carry-on luggage can't weigh that, but no one will weigh anything.
Right. Not
Not
for
for carry-on,
carry-on.
but there is
No
technically a
way.
weight
Yeah.
limit.
Mhm.
All they care about is the size, the
Yes.
dimensions, and you
Mhm.
lose, like, 25% of packing space getting a roller bag. So, that's why I chose a
Because of
backpack.
the
I wanted all the
mhm.
volume I
Yeah.
could get.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of the wheels and the
Yes.
handle. Yeah, it winds up taking up
It
a bunch
takes
of
a lot
space.
of
Sure.
space. And then what works for me is the strategy of grabbing everything I want and just kind of throwing it on the bed and seeing what I can get in the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And then I
yeah.
just kind of put it off to the side and don't look at it for a few days so that I can realize, "Okay, that's everything, but it's not gonna fit." So, you know, and so I just go through this process of taking things out before I can get
Mm.
everything in. And you'll see that all outlined in this 4-page printable at tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light. But I think one of
Yeah.
my biggest tips that I will say is to get, and if you're in your buy nothing group, which we talk about buy nothing frequently on this, it's
Mm.
so easy to find these, and that is to grab a muslin swaddling blanket as a packable towel. They are so
Ooh.
absorbent, they dry so
Mm.
quickly, and it works as a sarong or a scarf in a pinch.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
was like, "Ah,
Oh my
these
goodness.
travel towels are actually kind of bulky," I noticed. And I said, "You know what's not bulky and what's super absorbent? A swaddling blanket." And so I just kept an eye out, and by the time my trip came in June, I had grabbed 3 swaddling blankets off the Buy Nothing group. So 1 for my husband and daughter and I, and that I used it so much.
That is such a great idea. Like, 'cause I'm thinking now it's been a minute since we've had a swaddling blanket in this house. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They really do. They really can be a great thing to cover you up, and also really absorbent for their
So
size and weight.
absorbent, and they dry so fast, And actually, it's funny. I've started using the swaddling blankets around the house as my hair towel, when I get out of the shower, because it just soaks up so much water. So swaddling blankets, there's more to them than meets the
That is
eye.
a great tip. And, since I'm going to an island, I'm definitely going to want to, even though we'll have a hotel and whatnot, and they'll have towels. That's just a great thing to have.
Yeah,
That's
like
a great
whether
idea.
it's also great
So,
for sitting on, right? Because it doesn't pick up
yeah.
sand the way a terry cloth towel will pick up sand.
Right.
And when
Yeah.
I was on a boat, I got white swaddling blankets, or I got as light colored as I could get, like a light blue, a light gray, and a white one. And it was also great, like sun protection, because we were on boats as
Yeah.
well on our trip. So
I'm a very good packer. I wouldn't say I'm a light packer though, but like I can get a lot of stuff into a small space or whatever. There's often my husband's like, that's not going to fit in the trunk. And I was like, stand back. I'm going to repack
yeah.
everything. It will fit and I'm going to make it fit. So so this is how I can indulge my overpacking, but would you say, excuse me, technique wise, are you more of like a roller and putting it in, or do you use packing cubes, or do you use a combination
I
of both?
did rolling into packing cubes. And the backpack that I purchased comes with packing cubes. So it was perfect. And I walk you through the packing cubes and how I pack them in the Printable at tinyurl.com/bywd pack light for those of you listening to the podcast. And yeah, so I roll and then use the packing cubes. And also, what materials you use makes a big difference too. I packed really light in terms of it was just this one bag, but I actually had quite a few articles of clothing because I brought a lot of silk because it was summer and a silk dress can be this big. For those listening to the podcast, like you can ball it up into your fist. They're so teeny tiny.
Yeah.
And so I was actually able to get quite a few articles of clothing. Now, my husband did not pack a single lick of silk, and he totally enough clothes, and he said he had things he didn't wear. So it works. I just had more options.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. That's really great. And I was going to say those packing cubes, especially like if you do like a family suitcase, and we do that a bunch where we'll, three of us will pack into one larger suitcase and then one takes a carry-on. That we've done that a bunch. And the packing cubes are we have different colored ones, for different people. It just saves confusion and, and messiness and all that kind of thing. Especially if you have to live out of the suitcase for a couple days, it just makes it so much easier. Highly recommend.
And it kind of compresses everything. So
yeah, absolutely. You really can get it very small and it just keeps it really well organized.
And I even had space to bring back some things. Like I brought back 5 or 6 ceramic birds that were about this size. I actually was able to bring back more souvenirs than I expected. So that was fun. And then there's some other little tips in there. Like, for instance, what if you're going somewhere cold weather? Well, there's a sneaky way to get more clothes on board, which is you layer up. And then when you get to your seat on the airplane, you take off all those layers and stuff them into a little backpack that you brought just for that purpose.
Yeah. Or I use them like I'll take, if I wear extra sweatshirt, blah, blah, I'll roll that up and use that for under my legs to lift my legs up. And I basically use them as bolsters and pillows,
lumbar support
for my flight. And for sure, if you have an expandable suitcase and you're wanting to bring back, souvenirs and so forth, definitely pack with that unexpanded so that you can expand later for, any other incidentals you want to bring back. Yeah. But you really want to pack with it not expanded so that you have more room later.
Also took with us a duffel bag, a collapsible duffel bag. So it packed really small because in case there was something that we fell in love with, I did want to be able to bring it home, but we actually didn't end up using it. So, that's kind of a just in case sort of thing.
I am going to just give one last tip that I've used in the past, that if you have children and you're bringing a car seat with you or a stroller or anything like that goes in one of those large bags, those red bags that you don't have to pay to check it. I highly recommend, especially if you're going to cold weather or whatever, just go ahead and
with clothes.
I bundle up some clothes inside of it and just stuff it in there. Now, not to the point where it looks like a bag full of clothes, right? But enough that I basically would take a bundle of clothes or extra diapers or whatever it is that was bulky and pack it into the car seat itself and buckle it in itself. And you can get away with bringing a lot more stuff. And then even when my kids were kind of like past car seat range, and I would just bring booster seats with me and put it in that bag. They don't open it. They don't check. I would just kind of like wrap it inside the bag, inside the thing, and just put it in there, and they would just check it through. So sorry, airlines, but
no, I think they totally
my little airline hack. I think
because I was not as neat as you about it. I did not buckle it in. I just threw clothes. I put them in like a plastic bag and then threw them in there.
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't seem to care. And those bags are amazing. I still have those bags because I kept them for putting our sleeping bags in and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
They're
huge.
huge.
I wish I had kept mine. That's smart. I think I gave it away. But yeah, that was great. Also, there's videos out there on how to turn your roller bag into a stroller with a car seat on your kids to bring them on board. It's fascinating because they sell these things where you can clip it onto a car seat so you can roll your child to the gate. But there's a way to clip onto your roller bag. They're out there. It's fun. I've used it. The kids love it. They think it's so exciting to sit in the car seat while it's attached to your your suitcase. They love getting pulled around. And these things that converted are like, I don't know, $100, you can skip that. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And you can get that Packing Light Printable, the 4-page Packing Light Printable at tinyurl.com/BYWD Pack Light. And we'll see you next week. Remember, planning makes everything easier. If you're ready to take your planning skills to the next level, check out our on-demand 6-session course called Harness the Power of Planning, or HPOP for short. And you can find that at tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand. We'll show you how to plan your day, your week, your month, your year, your life, and help you to start prioritizing yourself and your goals right now. Dream wild, wild dreamers. Thanks for joining us for the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen.